Today, Ford's Fiesta range must appeal to a more diverse cross-section of buyers than ever before, hence the need for this Active variant, the first ever Fiesta crossover model. It isn't really any sort of SUV, but it might be an interesting alternative to one for quite a number of small car buyers.
Here's a Fiesta, but not quite as you know it. For those who kind of like the idea of a small SUV but aren't quite ready to take the plunge, the Fiesta Active might be just perfect. A few off-road cues, some extra traction for slippery surfaces and efficient running costs will all make it tempting to those who are wavering on the brink of small crossover ownership. Every market segment nearly seems to offer an SUV option these days, and the super mini sector is no exception. Ever since the turn of the century, we've had super minis on sale with ruggedized exteriors, usually marked out by body cladding and sometimes a bit of extra ride height. Long forgotten contenders that come to mind include the Rover Streetwise, the Volkswagen Polo Dune and the Citroën C3 XTR. Now, this Fiesta Active is a slightly more serious effort than most of those. Thanks to a multi-mode traction control system and 18mm of extra ride height, it actually does have some very mild off-piste stability for a start. Not that typical owners are ever likely to use that much. No, this is a car that'll fit in just a little bit better in the country car park where you walk the dogs. Or for older buyers, it'll be a super mini which will be just a touch easier to get out of in the doctor's surgery car park, thanks to that fractionally increased ride height. In other words, the differences over an ordinary Fiesta are small, which is good news in many ways because there's lots about the ordinary Fiesta which is brilliant, including drive dynamics that we're hoping won't have been harmed by the Active package. Now, Ford insists that we needn't worry on that score, and it reckons that this Active variant will account for up to 15% of Fiesta sales going forward. There are Active versions of the KA Plus and the Focus 2 if you need a conventional family car with a similar roughy-tufty vibe that's either smaller or larger. So, does the concept make sense? And would you want it in a Fiesta? Let's find out. You might wonder at Ford's reasoning here. The brand has long had a small SUV, the EcoSport, so on the face of things, there's no real need for the company to address the same market segment from a different angle by offering a Fiesta that's effectively kitted out in a set of hiking boots, especially as doing so might potentially damage the conventional Fiesta's strongest suit, its rewarding tarmac handling. Still, such is the overwhelming worldwide demand for crossover class cars that the Blue Oval brand decided that such a course was still worth the risk and tasked its engineers with the potentially quite difficult job of delivering a palatable end result. Most of the effort here has been put into countering the potential handling downsides of the raised ride height that the development team knew that this variant would have to have. As you can imagine, the level of the suspension hike was much debated, with an 18mm increase finally settled upon, with a further 1mm gained through beefier tyre sidewalls. That's a total just enough to better cope with the bumpy track, but not enough to deal with any terrain much more adventurous than that. The brand says it's not enough to have any noticeable effect on the ordinary model's pin-sharp handling either. Well, we'll get to that. To start with, though, let's begin by approvingly noting that the job's been done properly here. For this Active variant, unique knuckle geometry for the suspension and bespoke settings for the springs and the shock absorbers are combined with revisions to the electric power steering and the stability control to keep this Fiesta's body movements in check. Plus, there are optimised front shock absorbers which feature a special hydraulic rebound stopper that smooths out the bumps and jolts that you get over rougher surfaces. You don't get four-wheel drive, of course. Top versions of the EcoSport do offer that if you really have to have it on this class of car. Laudably, though, Ford has added a bit of substance to the lifestyle rhetoric by equipping all Fiesta Active models with a selectable drive mode setup. On manual models, this gives you the option of switching into a so-called slippery setting, which carefully adjusts the electronic stability and traction systems to reduce wheel spin in wet, snowy or icy conditions. In that sort of situation, slippery mode also gives you a bit more control when you're changing lanes or cornering by delivering small adjustments to the throttle and brakes that prevent excessive understeer or oversteer, keeping the car more stable. It's a small but significant extra help that you'll be very glad of in poor weather. Mild changes then in pursuit of this Fiesta Active's intended crossover vibe, but as far as Ford thought it could go before damaging the car's class-leading ride and handling package beyond repair. Now that hasn't happened here. True, the ride is a tad firmer, but it's still impressively supple over broken urban tarmac surfaces, and it's aided by those special front shock absorbers we mentioned. Get beyond the city limits and Fiesta regulars might notice a touch more body roll than you get on the ordinary version of this car, but it's nothing significant, certainly not enough to detract from the kind of handling poise which is a world away from the SUV norm. A 10mm wider track aids things here, as does the feel-some steering, which always clues you in properly to what the front wheels are doing. The best torque vectoring system in the small car segment also helps here, this being one of those setups that works when you're powering through tight turns to apply an imperceptibly small amount of braking to the inside front wheel, assisting tractional stability and firing you from bend to bend. As a result, you can throw this car into corners at speeds that most rivals wouldn't be able to countenance. If you're forced to drive in this fashion, then a petrol-powered Fiesta Active will respond better than its diesel equivalent because there's less weight in the nose. Now that's what we've got here, and that's what the vast majority of potential buyers will choose too. All the green pump-fueled models use Ford's 3-cylinder, 1-litre EcoBoost engine, but buyers are offered it in 4 different states of tune with either 85, 100, 125 or 140 PS. Now this engine doesn't have the balancer shaft that calms down the rival PSA Group 3-cylinder unit, hence the buzzy thrum under hard acceleration, but the sound's not unpleasant and it could even be said to add something to the character of the car. We would steer clear of the base 85 PS variant, which does feel a bit feeble. 62 miles an hour from rest takes 12.7 seconds on the way to 105 miles an hour, but otherwise you can't go too far wrong. Most customers will opt for the 100 PS derivative, and in that version, if you're quick with the slick 6-speed stick shift that all turbo Fiestas get, 62 from rest occupies 10.6 seconds on the way to 113 miles an hour. Well, at least it does in the manual model. The 100 PS petrol engine is the only one in the range that can be ordered with the option of automatic transmission, and that's an old tech 6-speed power shift setup, and in that guise the sprint figure slows to 12.4 seconds and the efficiency readings take quite a dive. Now in an era when rival Volkswagen Group models are offering slick dual clutch DSG auto boxes able to actually improve on performance and efficiency readings, it's clear that Ford needs to play catch up here. For completion, we'll clear up the performance stats for the remaining manual-only active models, and we'll start with the 2 top petrol variants. Here we've opted for the 1-litre T EcoBoost power plant in its 125 PS mid-range state of tune, in which guise the car makes 62 miles an hour in 10 seconds dead on the way to 121 miles an hour. If you can stretch to the fastest 140 PS version, the figures are 9 seconds and 125 miles an hour. Alternatively, you might be one of those people prepared to ignore the current media backlash against diesel and opt for a version of this car fueled from the black pump. If so, you'll find the engine in question is a 1.5-litre TDCI unit that Ford fits to all its small and compact models. This is available with 85 PS at the foot of the range, in which form it delivers a very leisurely performance gate that takes you to 62 in 12.6 seconds on the way to 105 miles an hour. The 120 PS version of that diesel is likely to be more popular, and it improves those figures to 9.2 seconds and 118 miles an hour. And it's the engine you'd choose if you were planning to, say, tow a light caravan with this car. That's because it puts out 270 newton meters of pulling power. That's about 60% more than the volume petrol units. All of that is of much greater significance than what this car can do off-road, which isn't very much. But we did try it around a field to find out anyway, and we found that, as advertised, those special hydraulic rebound stoppers do indeed smooth out the ride a bit over clumps and bumps. But on terrain like that in this car, you always get the feeling that you're a bit of a fish out of water. The Active badging here doesn't designate any sort of SUV, just a car that's a bit more ready for the real world. And there's plenty to be said for that. In active form, this Fiesta certainly has a more purposeful gait. In fact, it's surprising just how much visual difference an 18mm increase in ride height can make. Though, of course, the whole effect is amplified by all the styling changes made to this more outdoorsy variant. The profile perspective shows them off best. The extra distance away from the deck is emphasised by dark plastic cladding, which flows around the wheel arches and covers the lower sills. They also feature silver trimming. These 17-inch 5-spoke alloy wheels are unique to the Active 2. They come either in a rough metal design or with this shadow black finishing, depending on the trim level you select. Roof rails are also standard fit, and this mid-range B&O play trim level gives you a contrast-coloured black roof, which goes well with this particular model's luxe yellow paintwork, and that's a shade exclusive to the Active model. At the front, the dark finished grille has a unique mesh pattern, while further down this lower air intake sits above a bright lower scuff plate built into more black cladding. As with the ordinary Fiesta, these C-shaped corner bumper recesses for the fog lamps are neat, while just above the headlamps can be fitted with piercing full LED beams on request, and we've got those here. At the rear, the tail lamps feature a special LED night signature, plus there's another silvered scuff plate on the lower part of the restyled bumper, and there's a dark surround for the number plate recess. Otherwise, the look is as you'd find it on any other Fiesta, emphasising this Mark 7 model's wider stance and broader shoulders. Nice touches include these recessed bumper corner reflectors and this neat integrated roof-mounted tailgate spoiler. Time to get in. Now, these optional door edge protectors are neat, and older folk will like the way that the extra ride height makes getting in slightly easier. But once inside, some of them may well not appreciate the yellow seat and fascia trimming that variants like this one feature. Now, these are part of the body colour package of decorative elements that are provided for the central and passenger side instrument panel, so you'll want to choose your exterior paintwork carefully. Now, this being a converted Super Mini, you won't be expecting a properly commanding SUV-style driving position, and despite the rough road suspension package, you don't get it either. Mind you, in our experience, a lot of small SUVs that are purpose designed for the crossover segment lack that too. Ford's own EcoSport contender is better in that regard, so do ask your dealer to let you have a seat in one of those if you want to see the difference that a higher set seat can make. Ford says the upholstery and trimming materials have all been specially tested for the outdoor-orientated needs of SUV-style customers. The muddy boots, the sandy beach towels and soggy passengers that this car will be expected to take in its stride. The seat bolsters have undergone 60,000 test cycles to ensure wear resistance, and the robustness of colours is tested using a weatherometer and then analysed with a spectrometer to make sure that they don't fade after extensive exposure to ultraviolet light. The designers even remembered to test the leather-stitched steering wheel for its resistance to sunscreen lotion. Otherwise, as you'd expect, it'll all be exactly as it would be in any better trimmed conventional Fiesta. If you're not familiar with the 7th generation model, then the first thing that you'll probably notice is the touchscreen infotainment system that sprouts in freestanding form from the top of the centre console here. Avoid entry-level trim, which gets a 6.5-inch monitor, and it comes with this 8-inch display and delivers pin-sharp graphics, logical menus and fast processor speeds. In both cases, you get the proper rotary volume and zoom controls that some rival systems have unwisely dispensed with. As standard, you get the brand's latest Sync 3 infotainment setup, which allows for easy app integration and also allows you to duplicate the operation of your smartphone onto the central fascia screen via either Apple CarPlay or the MirrorLink Android Auto system. Now, if you're not familiar with the Sync 3 package, it doesn't take long to adjust to it, with the central dash monitor divided into sectors, which allow you to activate audio, phone, and where it's fitted, the sat-nav functions via touchscreen icons. Heating and ventilation is covered off by separate switchgear further down the centre stack here, which is just as well because the display icons on the monitor can be a bit fiddly to use. That's despite the inclusion of smartphone-style pinch and swipe functionality. So instead of stabbing away at the screen graphics, it's better to try to master the system's impressive voice-activated functionality, and that will allow you to issue simple one-shot commands. So simply by saying phrases like, I need a coffee, I need petrol, or I need to park, you can easily locate cafes, petrol stations or car parks nearby and find destinations like train stations, airports and hotels. Avoid entry-level trim and you'll get another informative screen in the instrument binnacle. This one is a 4.2-inch display that deals with the usual trip computer functions and which can display a wide range of features, including a digital speedo and a compass. Now, you view this through this smart, high-quality 3-spoke steering wheel we mentioned earlier. The TFT screen sits above small fuel and temperature gauges and it's flanked by big, clear speed and rev counter dials. It's all very user-friendly and it's ergonomically spot-on, which is one reason why it's so easy to feel comfortable in this car. The standard colour-stitched sport seats offer lumbar support for the driver, as well as four-way adjustment for the driver and the passenger. We're not so keen on the rear three-quarter vision. The small rear side windows hamper your over-the-shoulder view, so we would suggest that you opt for one of the packages which will throw in rear parking sensors. What else? Well, we like the standard quick clear heated windscreen and the optional B&O Play 10-speaker audio system that we've been trying here, although unfortunately having that means you can't specify a spare wheel. The same, for some reason, applies to the optional panoramic glass roof too. Interior storage is decently taken care of. There's a big 1 litre area at the bottom of the centre stack here with a USB port nearby. That'll be ideal for your mobile phone. Plus you get an integrated pair of cup holders which are illuminated near the gear lever with a credit card slot just in front. Avoid entry-level trim and you get this armrest between the seats, which includes a lift-out tray and another USB port. The door pockets are quite small, but you do get an overhead compartment for your sunglasses, a coin tray by the handbrake lever and a further cubby by the driver's right knee. Illuminated vanity mirrors and ticket clips are built into both sun visors, and you get a reasonably sized glove box too, 20% larger than before and big enough to incorporate an optional CD player if you still want to play some of your old plastic discs. Inevitably, there are a few issues, things we'd want Ford to look at for the facelift. There are no roofline grab handles of the type that help older folk get in. The cruise control buttons on the steering wheel, they're a bit fiddly. Plus, the centre dash touchscreen attracts reflections, and the ventilation vents beneath it freeze your fingers if you linger too long on the controls. As for build quality, well, the glove box lid and the door handles let down the side a bit here, but what's important is that the bits that you regularly interact with, the wheel, the gear knob and the indicator stalks, for example, all feel significantly more upmarket than you might expect from a mainstream brand Super Mini. Time to take a seat in the rear. Now, this Active model is only available with the 5-door Fiesta body shape. That's one that was lengthened by 70mm as part of the 7th generation redesign, which incorporated a whole range of thoughtful little design touches, like the way that this sleeker silhouette better channels rainwater away from the roof edges, reducing the risk of passengers being dripped on when they get in or out. Get yourself into the back seat, and if you're not familiar with this Mark 7 model Fiesta, you might be pleasantly surprised at the amount of legroom on offer, 16mm more than was available with the previous generation car. That isn't enough, though, to make it feel in any way spacious. I mean, you don't get the sliding seat bases or reclining backrest that some small SUVs will give you, but then we didn't really expect that. The issue is whether Ford has properly covered off the basics here. So is that the case? Well, really tall folk will certainly need cooperation from those ahead to get truly comfortable in terms of leg space. And if you have lanky teenage children who are likely to be regularly sitting in the back here, don't order a model fitted with the optional panoramic glass roof, as with that feature fitted, they're going to struggle for headspace. Most buyers, of course, will merely be carrying small children back here, although even a youngster will only want to travel short distances in the middle of this rear bench, as the cushion is quite narrow. Still, both outer seats feature load limiters and pre-tensioners, plus you get the expected Isofix child seat fastenings. Small door bins and seat back pockets are provided for storage. There's this centre cubby here, and you get a small recess in each door below the window switch for coins and things. So let's finally take a look at the boot, but let's pause on the way to mention the Ford Easy Fuel capless refuelling system. That's designed to stop you from putting diesel into a petrol model or vice versa. Now, what's it like back here? Well, the wide tailgate gives easy cargo area access, but there's quite a high sill to heave bigger shopping bags over. Mind you, that's common to many Super Mini style models, and the hassle it causes is minimised if you pay the small amount extra for the optional adjustable boot load floor. A couple of small pockets on either side are ideal for stowing smaller bits and pieces, plus on the left here you get these Velcro straps and an elasticated strap too. The outdoorsy vibe would have been better suited if Ford had remembered to include a 12-volt socket and a spare wheel. Unfortunately, both are lacking. Being stuck with a tyre repair kit does free up a bit of extra space beneath the boot floor though. Now we should give you the total cargo capacity figure, 292 litres. That's 41 litres less than you'll get in the EcoSport, and about 20-30% less than you'll get in the most popular Duke genre small SUVs. If you need more room, then pushing forward the 60-40 split folding rear backrest frees up 1,093 litres, and that should be sufficient for the needs of most likely buyers. The Ford's floor has quite a step in it when the rear seats are tipped forward, but you can alleviate that with the adjustable boot load floor I mentioned earlier. If you were thinking that going for a ruggedised version of an ordinary Super Mini might be a slightly cheaper route into the SUV lifestyle than buying a purpose-designed small Duke genre crossover, then the Fiesta Active price list might cause you to pause for thought. Only the 5-door Fiesta body style is on offer, and typically you're looking at paying somewhere in the £18,000 to £22,000 bracket for it, which is a sort of spend that would get you into any number of little SUVs, including the Ford EcoSport model that you'll find on the other side of the Blue Oval brand showroom, in which this car will sit. Now, the Fiesta Active is front-wheel driven only, and it uses pretty much the same engine range as an EcoSport, based around various versions of the familiar 1.litre T EcoBoost 3-cylinder petrol engine and a 1.5-litre TDCi 4-cylinder diesel. Go for a Fiesta Active with the 100 PS version of the 1.litre T EcoBoost petrol unit, which is a kind of package that most potential buyers will want, and you'll find that an entry-level EcoSport model with the same engine would save you around £800. Now, for reference, the entry-level version of an ordinary 5-door Fiesta with that same engine would save you double that, about £1,600. Of course, it's not quite as simple as that. Those calculations compare to an EcoSport and an ordinary Fiesta featuring volume Z-Tech trim. Now, this Active model doesn't use ordinary trim designations like that. It prefers instead its own bespoke spec lineup, and that starts with Active 1, then progresses through Active B&O Play to Active X. Now, if you use Active 1 as your starting point, then you're looking at needing £1,100 more to get to the B&O Play grade that we're testing here, or £2,200 more if you want to go the whole hog and try a top Active X variant. In all three cases, there are 100 and 125 PS versions of the 1-litre EcoBoost petrol power plant on offer, the 100 PS unit being the only one in the range available with the option of automatic transmission, and that's a 6-speed power shift setup which costs £1,350 more. Bear in mind that if you go for the auto model, you'll lose the slippery drive mode option that the manual models have. If you want another flavour of 1 litre petrol unit in your Fiesta Active, or indeed you want to consider the alternative 1.5 litre diesel, then what's available to you will depend on your choice of trim level. Base Active 1 spec is the only one that gives you either of those engines in their Feeblest 85 PS states of tune. The two ritziest grades, meanwhile, are the ones that you'll need if you want the petrol power plant in its top 140 PS form, or the 1.5 litre TDCi diesel with 120 PS. Got all that? Good. Let's move on to market rivals. Now, there are scores of alternatives to this car, or none at all. It all depends on how you look at it. As we've said, there are lots of small Duke genre SUVs which offer pretty much the same sort of thing as you're getting here. But the main reason that you'll be looking at a Fiesta Active in the first place will be because, for whatever reason, you don't want a purpose-designed SUV. At the launch of this car in 2018, no other Super Mini manufacturer was offering an SUV-style trim option. The closest thing to that was the all-grip version of Suzuki's Swift. The Japanese contender does give you proper four-wheel drive, and there is an attractive asking price of under £17,000. On the downside, though, you don't get the trendy, ruggedized look of the Fiesta Active, and you're limited to a relatively feeble 90 PS 1.2 litre petrol engine, which doesn't supply the kind of punch that you get in most versions of this Ford. Are there other options? Well, not really. There are SUV-style versions of city cars, the Fiat Panda Cross, the Kia Picanto X-Line, Vauxhall's Viva Rox and so on, but they really compete against the active version of Ford's KA Plus in the next class down. And there is the odd ruggedized family hatch segment model, the Volvo V40 Cross Country and the Citroën-derived DS4 Crossback, for example, but they really compete against the active version of Ford's Focus in the next class up. All of which might explain the brand's optimism for what you might otherwise think would be a rather niche Fiesta model. It's actually expected to account, though, for up to 15% of all Fiesta sales, and that adds up to a lot of cars. If you think you'd like to be one of those buyers, then you're going to want to know just what's going to be included with the trim level you have in mind, so let's take a look at the detail there. All active variants, of course, get the extra body cladding, the bespoke grille, the raised rough road suspension, the bright front and rear scuff plates, and the selectable drive mode system fitted to the manual versions that set this model apart from conventional Fiestas. Plus, all also feature unique 5-spoke 17-inch alloy wheels, roof rails, rear privacy glass and rear lamps with a special LED night signature, along with active branded front door sill plates, special front floor mats, a quick clear heated windscreen and driver's seat lumbar adjustment, and power for the rear windows as well as those at the front. Infotainment is taken care of by a 6.5-inch Sync 3 touchscreen, which gives you a 6-speaker DAB audio system, voice control and emergency assistance. That's along with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring. As the name suggests, the B&O Play trim grade that we've got here gets you the upgraded audio system of the same name. This one a 360-degree sound 10-speaker setup. The infotainment's improved at this level too, courtesy of Ford's latest Sync 3 package. That comes with a larger 8-inch touchscreen and a couple of USB points. Fiesta Active B&O Play variant feels quite a bit more distinctive than the base Model 2. The wheels, the roof rails, the mirrors and the interior headlining are all finished in black, plus there's a black contrast coloured roof too, and a bright yellow coloured interior theme around the front of the cabin there. Extra practicalities at this level include rear floor mats and a front centre console with an armrest and illuminated cup holders. Plus, this variant also throws in cruise control, rain-sensing wipers, an auto-dimming rearview mirror, heated mirrors, a 4.2-inch instrument binnacle screen, and a few extra camera-driven safety features that we'll cover off in a minute. Now that should give you most of what you want, but if you want to stretch further to the top of the range and an Active X variant, you also get navigation, part leather upholstery, climate control, keyless entry, a rear view camera with rear parking sensors, heated front seats and power folding mirrors with puddle lights. At X level, you do get downgraded to a 6-speaker audio system though, and you'll also have to do without the B&O Play model's contrast coloured roof. On to options. On Active 1 and Active X variants, you can specify the panoramic glass roof that Ford thinks will be popular, but if you do that, then you have to do without roof rails, and there's no option of paying extra to either have a spare wheel or a tow bar. Bear in mind that with the mid-range B&O Play grade, you can't have a spare wheel. However you specify the car, there's no space for it in the boot. And obviously that'll also be the case if you take up the option Ford offers of adding in the B&O Play surround system to the Active 1 and Active X variants that don't have it. Across the range, the option of full LED headlamps is worth looking at, and as you'd expect, a number of the features that are fitted to the top X model are optional on the two lesser variants if you want them, so things like navigation, rear parking sensors, passenger seat lumbar support and heat for the front seats and the steering wheel. Plus, across the range you can have a glove box mounted CD player if you still have a lot of old plastic discs that you want to use. On to practical options. Now, we'd pay the extra to have the adjustable height boot floor. Oh, and the door edge protectors that spring out to protect the paintwork edges in tight car parks. There are the usual extra cost mud flaps, bumper protectors and air deflectors. Plus, you might want to protect the boot area with a liner and add in a load retention guard or a load compartment tray. Active models can be fitted with special roof carriers and crossbars too. Now, you'll need those if you want to add a roof box or carriers for skis or bikes. Enough with general options, let's consider this Fiesta's safety credentials. Now, Ford says that the B-pillar and the doors of this 7th generation Fiesta design have been optimised for better side impact protection, and every variant is fitted with 6 airbags, twin front, side and curtain bags. The side bags have been designed to lift the occupant's arm away from the impact zone. Now, some rivals include a driver's knee bag too, but Ford says that this Fiesta doesn't need one of those thanks to a clever locking seatbelt tongue attachment on the driver's belt, which prevents slippage of that belt during an accident. Now, with this Mark 7 Fiesta, the rear outer seats feature load limiters and pre-tensioners, and another safety improvement this time around lies in the fact that inside the doors are pressure sensors which enable restraint systems to be activated several milliseconds earlier in the event of a side impact. Pedestrian protection is enhanced with headlamps that are designed to travel rearwards on impact, plus there's a collapsible cowl and wiper spindle assembly that's designed to give way in the event of head impacts. The Fiesta was the first small car ever to be fitted with ABS braking. That was back in 1989. And today, across the range, you also get ESP stability control, tyre pressure monitoring and hill start assist to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions. In addition, as we mentioned earlier, emergency assist is fitted across the range, and that's there to alert the emergency services with your exact GPS location if those airbags go off in an accident. For further highway safety, all variants get 2 features that you wouldn't expect to see fitted right across the range on a Super Mini. There's a lane keeping alert system which warns you if you veer out of lane, and a lane keeping aid which will automatically steer you gently back to where you should be. Avoid base Active 1 trim, and your car will also come with 3 extra high-tech safety elements: traffic sign recognition, pictures road signs as you pass them and then displays them on the dash; auto high beam, now that automatically dips your headlights at night in the face of oncoming traffic; and driver alert, which monitors your reactions for signs of drowsiness and, if necessary, will prompt you to stop for a restorative coffee. Want to go further? Then you'll want to look at one of the optional driver assistance packs, which use a technology package incorporating 2 cameras, 3 radars and 12 ultrasonic sensors, which together are able to monitor 360 degrees around the vehicle and scan the road ahead to a distance of 130 metres. That's more than the length of a football pitch. Now, the key pack feature is autonomous braking. Here, Ford calls that pre-collision assist with pedestrian detection. Now, as usual with these kinds of setups, this one works as you drive to scan the road ahead for potential collision hazards, with a particular focus on pedestrians. It even operates at night. Now, if something you might be about to hit is detected, you'll be warned. If you don't respond, or perhaps you aren't able to, then the brakes will automatically be applied to decrease the severity of any resulting accident. Every driver assistance pack also includes 2 further camera-driven features: adaptive cruise control, which automatically regulates your speed to the surrounding traffic on the highway, and distance alert, and that will warn you if you're getting too close to the car in front. If you specify the driver assistance pack on one of the cheapest Active 1 models, you'll get a version of it which will additionally build in the traffic sign recognition and auto high beam features that base trim level otherwise wouldn't give you. As an extra option across the range, it's also possible to order a blind spot information system with cross-traffic alert setup. Now, this works on the move to warn you if you're about to pull out to overtake when there's a vehicle in your blind spot, and it also warns you of oncoming traffic when you're reversing out of a parking space. One of the reasons you might choose this Fiesta Active over a purpose-designed SUV like, say, Ford's EcoSport is to minimise the running cost downside associated with that kind of car. Now, sure enough, this Fiesta model is able to achieve that. If your point of comparison is the EcoSport, then thanks to sleeker aerodynamics and the 39-kilogram weight advantage, this Fiesta Active looks usefully more economical. With the 1-litre T EcoBoost 100 PS petrol power plant that most customers choose, an EcoSport returns 53.3 mpg on the combined cycle and 121 grams per kilometre are improved to 56.5 mpg and 113 grams per kilometre in a Fiesta Active using exactly the same engine. There is obviously a slight downside against a conventional Fiesta, about 5%, thanks to this Active variant's higher ride height and larger wheels. The 100 PS EcoBoost model is the only one in the range that can be paired up with automatic transmission, but if you choose that option, you'll have to stomach a big deterioration in running cost performance. The PowerShift Auto variant manages only 55.4 mpg and 138 grams per kilometre. For completion, let's give you the figures for the 1-litre T petrol engine in its other flavours. Choose this unit in its 85 PS state of tune or 125 PS state of tune, and the fuel and CO2 figures remain the same as we've quoted for the 100 PS model, 56.5 mpg and 113 grams per kilometre. Now, inevitably, there is a slight deterioration if you go for the top 140 PS version, and that's to 54.3 miles per gallon and 118 grams per kilometre. As we've reminded you elsewhere in this film, there are diesel options too. Ford obviously still thinks there's a market for that in this segment, and certainly at first glance, the returns delivered by the pair of 1.5-litre TDCi models appear to be tempting. The base 85 PS version of that engine manages 70.6 mpg on the combined cycle and 103 grams per kilometre of CO2. Get a Fiesta Active 1.5 TDCi with 120 PS, and you're looking at 64.2 mpg and 112 grams per kilometre. Now, that's all well and good, but if you're a private buyer, you should still bear in mind that you'd have to cover around 80,000 miles in your TDCi Fiesta Active before the fuel economy gains would offset that diesel variant's much higher asking price. A standard engine auto stop-start system helps with those returns, and there's also a selectable eco mode which adjusts the throttle and engine settings to give the best economy possible. The brand is keen to suggest that sleek aerodynamics play their part too, and to that end, Ford has equipped this car with an active grille shutter. Now, that's these slats in the front grille remaining closed at startup so that the power plant can more quickly warm up to its optimum operating temperature. On the move, the flaps can open or shut for optimum aerodynamic efficiency. What else? Well, let's tell you about servicing, which on both engines is required every 2 years or 18,000 miles, whichever comes first. 2 prepaid servicing plans are available, one that costs £340 and covers you for 2 years and 2 services, and one that costs £550, which is transferable to future owners and covers 3 years and 3 services. Maintenance bookings can be done online through the My Ford portal, and this is part of the Ford Blue Service Scheme, which wraps up all the care and maintenance of your car into one bundle, and that includes a free 30-point e-check of vital parts and highlights any work required with a red, amber or green traffic light warning to rank items in order importance. There's also the Ford Service app, which you can download to your phone for free. It lets you locate your nearest dealer and make a booking. Plus, it has a couple of extra elements. It allows you to find petrol stations and includes a Park Me feature, which remembers where you left your Fiesta, so you won't have to go hunting for it in busy multi-story, say. What else? Well, insurance ought to be pretty affordable. You're looking at Group 7E for the 1 litre T petrol engine in 85 PS form, Group 10E for the volume 100 PS version, 12E for the 125 PS variant we're trying here, and 14E for the 140 PS derivative. As for the 1.5 litre TDCI diesels, well, the 85 PS variant is Group 7E and the 120 PS model is Group 9E. There's the usual 36-month, 60,000 mile Ford warranty package, and that includes 1 year of Europe-wide breakdown assistance. On top of that, there's an anti-corrosion guarantee for 12 years. Finally, let's consider the question of residual values. Now, this area has never been a Fiesta strength, but experts predict that this active model should perform quite well. If you want percentage figures, well, let's tell you that after 3 years and 30,000 miles, independent sources reckon that you'll be looking at retained values of between 35 and 41% of your original purchase price, with the 1 litre T EcoBoost petrol models performing best. Not long ago, the only reason why we had SUV-style super minis was that the makers concerned hadn't yet got around to designing a proper purpose-built small crossover model. Now that almost every brand has such a thing, is there really a place for an ordinary small hatch jazzed up with body cladding, lifestyle marketing and a bit of extra ride height? Before this test, we might have doubted that, but rather against the odds, the Fiesta Active has, to some extent, converted us to the concept. Nobody buys a small crossover to go off-roading, but people do like the confidence that that kind of car can give if, say, you're dropping off the main road onto a gravelly lay-by, or you're negotiating a bumpy track up to a forest car park. Buying an SUV just to deal with that kind of thing might seem a bit extreme when there's a simpler solution like this Fiesta Active on offer. It gives you much the same kind of capability, without the usual SUV running cost deterioration and handling downsides. For sure, this isn't the perfect package. You don't, of course, get the spacier practicality a proper small SUV crossover would give, despite the fact that this ruggedized Fiesta costs as much, if not more, than you'd be charged for one of those. Now, we would have been really enthusiastic if Ford could have brought this package to market for a bit less, say 16,500 to 17,500. The versions that you'll probably like, though, typically list in the 19,000 to 20,000 pound bracket, at which point you might want to pause, think and look around a little longer. We could see you coming back to a Fiesta Active though, then finding that your Ford dealer could offer you a very sharp deal on one and being very happy with the day-to-day ownership proposition that you ended up with. The handling is better than any small SUV you can name, the running costs are affordable, the Sync 3 infotainment system is slick, and there are some smart lifestyle touches that'll make the car stand out on the school run. Bottom line, well, if you want a more interesting breed of Fiesta, then getting active might well be worth a thought.